In the previous video about the Apollo orb, I told you that I would do a comparison shoot, one or two comparisons. I did one comparison shoot where I used the Apollo orb and I used my trusty old shoot-through umbrella. My go-to lighting setup, as you know, is a shoot-through umbrella. It's because it's easy. I put a speed light on one side, the umbrella on the other, or the subject on, down the line, and I get good light usually. That's how it works. But I was wondering how the Apollo orb would perform compared to my umbrella. Now in that video, in the Apollo orb video, I was actually talking about this problem I encountered when just trying to set it up with the tilting. You go ahead and look at that video if you want to know what that's all about and you want to know what my solution was to it. There's a lot of solutions down in the comments below, a lot of good ideas. Go ahead and check that out. I'll put a link up here, and you can, or in the description below, and you can see what that's all about. All right, first, just to get started, disclaimer, this is a completely unscientific comparison between the Apollo orb and how it performs against my shoot-through umbrella. I don't get into all the technical details. I don't do precise measurements and things like that. It's just kind of a real-world comparison, okay? So I set up a model, I set up a background, I set up my lights, and this is what I got. I'll just go ahead and show you the pictures right away. So just to preface this, I had my model do two different poses for each of the shots. One kind of a short light, and one just kind of straight ahead onto the camera. And so let's go ahead and take a look at the first one. Now this is the Apollo orb, and looks pretty good. I mean, nothing fancy here. I wasn't trying to do anything really creative. This is just a straight shot, one light, nothing else. I'd say that this doesn't look too bad. And you can see the orb catch lights in here. All right, and that's at the standard, basically 45-45 lighting position that I like to use. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's where I have the light about 45 degrees off the camera to subject axis and approximately 45 degrees coming down to the face of the subject. And the light's usually about arm's length from the subject. So as you can see here, this doesn't look too bad. Let's go ahead and take a look at the other pose. And what's cool here is that you can see we're going to compare the way that the shadows transition, where you got light to shadow, the light areas to the dark areas, and what that transition is. And here you can see it looks like this. This is the transition. All right, so now these next two pictures, I just brought the background in closer to the model. So you can see, because of the way that light drops off, if the background is a couple of feet farther away, it's going to be darker. If it's a little closer, it's going to be lighter. I'll show you that lighting setup right now. So this is with the basic Savage Thunder Gray Seamless that I always use. Here's where the light is set up. Here's the camera with an 85mm lens on it. And don't ask me about the settings. The settings are going to be whatever they need to be to get a good exposure for the camera settings that you're using and the light power that you're using. And there are other factors. Now I did have my shutter speed on fast enough to where that light in the room, that daylight that's coming in through the windows, isn't really a factor. So in other words, if I had the flash shut off and I just took a picture, it would basically be black, and so that doesn't factor in too much. But anyway, so getting back to this comparison. All right, so here we've got the orb still in effect, and there is that second shot. So now moving on, we're going to do the umbrella. All right, so I position the umbrella in basically the same spot. She's able to reach out and touch it with her fingertips. And here I've got the speed light. Now I use the same speed light with both lights. So it's just the one speed light inside the orb, one speed light on the one side of the umbrella. So let's go ahead and take a look at those. And we'll start first with the background positioned a little farther away, so it goes almost black. And so we have that and that. They're the two poses. Bring in the background a little closer, and this is what we have on the one pose and on the straight ahead pose. All right, normally I wouldn't have this much shadow coming in over the eyes, and I mean, I kind of like the dramatic look, but I'm going to have the head positioned a different way. Maybe bring the light, change the light position, but for comparison's sake, I wanted to keep the lights in basically the same position for both shots. All right, so how do we compare? How do we see what the difference is? Let's take a look at, let's go with this one. Let's do the straight on with the background in a little closer so that you can see the background. All right, so check out these shadows here. You should be able to see a difference. These shadows look maybe a little harsher, say a sharper transition, not as much of a smooth transition from the lightest areas to the darker areas. So then we go ahead and take a look at the orb's shadows, and we see the difference here. Let's look at that again. All right, this is the umbrella. This is the shadow pattern that you're getting with the umbrella, and this is the Apollo orb. All right, so there is a difference. And overall, what's the difference? I mean, maybe a little more contrast. Based on the concerns I had with the way that the umbrella was shaped, where you've got basically a smaller flat plane coming at the subject, and then the umbrella curves out like this, so you get less intense light going in a different direction, somewhat. You might expect that more intense light coming at the subject from a smaller plane is going to give you a little more contrast than the orb that gives you a lot more coverage on the same plane. Now, before we finish up here and I kind of give you my overall opinion about all of this, somebody requested, this is kind of a bonus tip here. This is kind of a bonus little demonstration. Somebody requested that I show the Apollo orb used in a clamshell scenario. So I went ahead and did that just for fun. So those of you who don't know what the clamshell lighting setup is, it's something like this. It's usually one light in the butterfly pattern position, which is one of the traditional, the classic lighting positions that you should know as a portrait photographer, if that's what you do. And another light is coming in at an angle sort of opposite and underneath. It's really like a main light fill light setup flipped over top to bottom instead of side to side. And so this is what it looks like with the reflector. Now, you don't have to use a reflector. You can use another light, an identical light. You can use an identical light on the bottom as you have on the top, or you can use a different kind of light like an umbrella or something else. But lots of times people will use reflectors like this, and so they'll just have the subject hold that reflector sometimes, or they'll have like a little special setup to where the reflector is held up by this, these gadgets. I just asked her to hold this so we could do this quick demo, and let's see, what do these end up looking like? Okay, so here's what the clamshell setup gave us in terms of that lighting pattern, and as you can see here, you've got a hint of the butterfly pattern, and you can see that showing up right here under the nose, and without that reflector underneath, this is what it looks like. There's a lot less fill light coming in, but it's still a pleasing, pattern here. So I like it, and I guess it goes to show you that the Apollo orb is somewhat versatile. Now remember, I am not endorsing this product. I know I keep saying its name because it's kind of fun to say. But yeah, Westcott's not paying me to talk about their product. I purchased it for myself. I wanted to see what it could do, and I'm just giving you that information. I do not endorse this product, and as a matter of fact, that's what I'm about to get to. Whether or not you should get one, whether or not it's going to help you. Did it convince me that it was a better thing to use, a better lighting modifier to use than my typical shoot-through umbrella, my go-to solution? I'm going to say no, it's not better. It's different. What does that mean? That means in some cases I'm going to want to use the Apollo orb with its big sort of soft box enclosed back so that the light doesn't bounce around the room situation. I'm going to use that sometimes because I want that look. Other times I'm going to want to use my umbrella because it's just easy to set up. It gives me a pretty good look. Maybe I want a little more contrast and I don't want the light so soft and big. Maybe I want it a little bit smaller. That's fine. Another thing, as far as soft light and light bouncing around goes, this is the interesting thing about all this. With the Apollo orb, because it's like a big softbox kind of lighting modifier, it gives you that big light coming at the subject from one direction, but it's directional. I mean, the back side of that thing's covered up, so light doesn't bounce out the back like it would with a shoot-through umbrella. With a shoot-through umbrella, light bounces through it, certainly, to hit the subject, but it also bounces out and spreads around the room. So if you're in a smaller room with lighter colored walls, you get light bouncing around from different directions, and that adds a little more fill and can give you maybe even a softer, more pleasant looking light on your subject. It just kind of depends on the environment you're shooting in. So yeah, one can give you softer light, the other can give you softer light. It all depends on where you're shooting, how you're using the light, how close it is to the subject, many factors. Really what it comes down to, and I always tell people this, you have to do your own experimentation. You've got to, if you're interested in purchasing a modifier and seeing what it can do, I'd say go for it. Do that, see what it can do, see if it works for you. And you don't, if it's a little different from what you expect, don't give up on it right away. Try it in different situations, see what you like, live with it for a little while. That's what I do. Now, what am I mainly going to use this big softbox setup for? For this, actually, I'm using it right now. I have decided that this is the better video light to use than what I was using. I was using smaller lights, smaller little softboxes. And it was just too contrasty. I didn't like the way it looked. But damn, if I didn't try it on my little video setup here, I would never have known. I like this. It's comfortable. It doesn't feel hot. It's not really concentrated and focused on this one area. It's nice and big. It's almost like window light in depending on how I'm using it. And I only have my lights to half power here. I like it. I like the way that I'm glad I purchased it for this reason alone, but I probably will still use it for photography purposes. Anyway, I hope that this little comparison and my little observations helped you out in case you were thinking about purchasing this product, the Apollo Orb by Westcott, or purchasing a similar product. Lots of times you can get stuff, from other manufacturers that maybe you haven't heard of that produce kind of a knockoff version of stuff. Sometimes they're not as well made as, another manufacturer might make their product, but that's up to you. Make sure you read your reviews and see if something cheaper might be the better way to go, or maybe it won't be. I got lots more stuff coming up for you pretty soon. Oh, and make sure that you check out the links to other videos about lighting setups. I'll include those in the description below. Lots of good stuff like the 3 rules for lighting, some lighting setup videos I think you should look at if you're interested in this kind of stuff. Anyway, that's about all I've got for you today, guys. You know what to do. If you like this video, go ahead and click that like button. If you haven't already, go ahead and click subscribe. I got to get back to work. Thanks for hanging out with me, as usual. I'll see you next time.